Hello, everyone. Welcome back to KT's Center for Leadership Behind the Title Conversations with people who inspire me, people who are doing amazing work out in the community, who have taken their life's passion and turned it into a work, turned it into entrepreneurship. And today I am so excited to be joined by Sandra. Sandra is a consultant and she runs Trans Law Nation, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about her journey and how she got to where she is consulting, opening her consulting firm, Trans Law Nation, and an amazing program that she has coming up that is called the Client Warrior Program. Thank you, Sandra, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, yes. So, hi, I'm so fascinated by the work that you do and just inspired by how you have kind of taken your knowledge and expertise and kind of created it to be a little bit more accessible to everyone and kind of giving that a little equity piece into what law looks like. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit and really dig into that. But I want to know from you to start. I ask everyone, what lights your fire? What gets you out of bed in the morning? Just excited to go.
Yeah, what I'm really passionate about and have been for a really long time is finding a way to merge spirituality and justice. Not so much law, but spirituality and justice. And so the program that I started with Translawmation is my attempt to do that, to merge those two areas in a way that's practical for people and society.
I love that. And like I said, I cannot wait to dig into this. But give us a little bit, a kind of about your background, your history. What has led you to today?
Well, I grew up in Philadelphia, so I'm an East Coast girl, and I ended up going to college. Wasn't really sure what I wanted to do after college. I had studied psychology as my major in college and thought I was going to be a therapist. And then I said, well, maybe law school. So then I ended up going to law school, and I've had a journey through the law doing various types of work, but primarily the work that I do is immigration. I'm an immigration attorney. I've been an immigration attorney for about 27 years. And in the course of that work, I've seen a lot of things, a lot of good things, a lot of bad things, a lot of abuses, a lot of corruption, a lot of disrespect. And so it was kind of pulling at me spiritually, like, how do you reconcile being in this field when it goes so far against what you personally believe to be ethical and correct. And so that launched a desire on my part to try to find a way to bridge the gap between spirituality and justice. I don't know if you can so much with law, but with justice. And that's the path that I started to take in order to get to where I founded the consulting practice, Translawmation, and the program within Translawmation called Client Warrior, where we help people strategize ways to become more confident in how they show up when they go to court.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that here in just a second, and I really, um, some of the things that I hear you saying that I think transcends almost any industry that we're in, that we work in, whether, it's law or marketing or whatever. But what happens when the work that you do, like you said, kind of collides with your values and how you step into spaces. And I think a lot of times, and for me personally, I've felt that, and I'm in a completely different industry than you, but you kind of get to that point where you're like, wow, like I really love what I do. Like I love the aspect of my job, but there's some things within it that are really pushing against me. And how do I continue to use my skill set or continue to use what I can bring, and then still do it within the realm of what I feel
Hmm.
is my purpose.
Yeah.
And I love that you took that, and rather than just pushing through, really looking at the justice aspect of it and being able to say, what can I do to help individuals navigate through the system, because the system itself has a lot of flaws, and there's a lot of things that are stacked against people. So tell us a little bit about your program, your client warrior program, and what's all involved in that.
What I came to see in my work as an attorney is that people oftentimes will pay the money to the attorney and then say, dust their hands off and say, you handle it. I'll let the judge and you figure it out. But the consequences all fall on the person, right? I mean, whatever the decision
Mhm.
is, good or bad, you are going to be the person who has to live with the consequences. The lawyer is going to be off on a new case. The judge is going to be trying, new cases. And so it was a um, a challenge to me to try to get clients to shift how they were showing up in coming to court and being more proactive in helping me help them, like partnering more with me to help them, to benefit them in ways that would not leave them drained or leave them defeated or leave them feeling psychologically beaten up or burned out at the end of everything that they had to go through to finish their court cases. But a lot of people think that there's no other option, that that's the way it has to be. But as an attorney, I know that's not how it has to be, right? I mean, there are things that you can do as a client to make sure that you protect your mental health, you protect your emotional health, you protect yourself psychologically, protect yourself financially. You are not like being led to the wolves when you go to court. There are things that you can do. And so the client warrior program is designed to help people be more proactive in helping me strategize a way to get them the best outcome that's possible.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that you kind of it becomes this shared ownership kind of in the outcome, right? And like you said, I don't know, I've not walked this road, but I can imagine that there is this feeling of helplessness
Mhm.
from a client who walks in who is like, well, you're the lawyer, you're the person who's, representing me. I don't know the ins and outs of the system, so, here you go. But to for you to reach into that and say, well, there's a shared ownership and how you show up and how you take care of yourself. I would imagine that the more that somebody is prepared for that, like you said, mentally, spiritually, helps you
Yes.
fight for them, right? And to tell their story. But also, again, it's just kind of this, I hope that it takes away some of the feeling of that hopelessness of being like, there's nothing more that I can do. I have to imagine um, that being in that position and not feeling like you don't have control of your future, and it's in somebody else's hands can be really, really hard, especially if you're an immigrant.
Right. Yeah. And for everybody, the law uses completely different language,
Mhm.
different procedures, different practices that people in their day-to-day lives don't experience. And certainly I as an attorney can help the client walk through that part of it. But what makes my role as an attorney difficult for me in trying to help them is when they just completely give up, or where they just completely throw everything on me and don't take responsibility or ownership or accountability for the parts of the process that they can control. And so that's what client warrior seeks to help them do.
So in that, the people who are in your client warrior program, like what is your typical clients in that program? Are they actually clients of yours? Is it open to anyone that's going through, facing something that they might need to go to court for?
It's open to anyone, not just clients of mine. Certainly, I offer it to people who are clients of mine. But again, most of my clients are immigrants, and it's a little difficult to try to get them to see the value in doing this. Oftentimes, especially the ones who don't really speak English very well. What I find is that people who are very highly motivated to um, get the judge to understand their position, are the ones who are most willing to, say, let me try this out. And that's very exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. You and I have had, a couple of conversations just kind of around the work that you do. And I think one of the things um, that sparked my interest in learning more about you was, there's a lot of pressure and a lot of responsibility in being attorney. And then you're taking this and you're adding this whole personal level of really caring for the person, caring for the client, that holistic approach. And I have to imagine that that is a lot for you to carry. And so, and also knowing that some of those things are also with, out of your control. Like, how do you handle your balance in life? How do you take care of your mental, physical, spiritual being?
Yeah, it can be hard. I can tell you there were years when, like I mentioned to you before, I was battling this inner conflict of, you have a certain set of values, you have a certain, dedication to spiritual practices, and then you walk into court and you see things that aren't necessarily fair and just, and it's supposed to be just because it's justice, and it was kind of very much of cognitive dissonance in,
Yeah.
to a certain extent. And I didn't always know how to handle it, but the more that I started thinking about ways that I could maybe blend the two and also get the clients more directly involved in the process, that took a lot of the onus off of me, out of my head, and feeling that I was letting myself down, I was letting my clients down. And so this is the avenue that has been helpful to me in terms of, honoring my own personal values, honoring, my what I think is best for my clients, and also giving myself an opportunity to inform other people so that other people don't have this same conflict, either whether they're attorneys or whether they're clients as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And how do your peers look at this? Like, is this something that you see other attorneys looking into and supporting? Is it something, like you said, that's kind of, it doesn't necessarily always fit within the law practice or the constraints of how we show up as maybe as attorneys, but what does that look like? How is that received within?
I haven't really gotten a lot of feedback because, again, my focus is more on justice than law, and
Yeah.
most attorneys are very law focused. Of course, that's the way that the system is set up, and so and this is a new concept. I haven't seen too many other people talk about these issues. The convergence of spirituality and justice. I did see a couple of blog posts from some attorneys talking about ways in which clients can be more proactive and making sure that they have a plan to protect their mental health, their emotional, sentiments in terms of going through the process. But in terms of a holistic approach to spirituality and justice, I really haven't seen anybody else take that on.
Hi, and I love that, and I think it's so important. And thinking about how, like I said, I think the holistic approach in everything in our lives, right? Whether it's health or any challenge that we're facing, and justice and fighting for justice is, I just feel like it's such a mental and physical drain. And I think in the world that we're in, no longer is anybody immune from it, right? I feel like it's feeling and it's hitting a lot of people in a lot of different ways. And I don't know, and I just know kind of from my aspect that I don't know how to engage in that. I don't know how to engage in stepping in and fighting for justice and protecting my spirit and protecting how I show up in places. Like, what are maybe some things that you do for that as well?
Well, I think the starting point is to understand what the difference, at least as I see it, between law and justice, right?
Mhm.
Law is basically whatever the powers that be say the rules should be, right? They could be just, they could be not just. You know, we've had a whole series of laws in this country, like enslavement, you know, in the Indian Removal Act, the imprisonment of Japanese and Italian people during the World War II, the whole civil rights movement, problems with laws against gay and lesbian people, trans people, disabled people. So a lot of things are legal, but they aren't necessarily just, right? So justice, as I see it, is more of a concept of accountability, you know, societal accountability to individuals, individual accountability to their neighbors and to society, in a way that's very balanced and is focused on equality as opposed to hierarchy, which you see a lot of in the law. So I think if you understand that concept, it becomes a little bit easier not to take on the negative aspects of the draining aspects of having a legal system and seeing things be not really just, but having to deal with it because you're told that it's justice. Like again, it's kind of cognitive dissonance. And I think
Yeah.
we get it. We understand that although we're told this is what justice is, we know in our hearts that oftentimes it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. What advice can you give to those that are maybe listening who are feeling like I'm in this situation? I really need this help. Maybe I'm facing something where I'm going to be in court. You know, what message do you have for someone who's really feeling this right now?
Well, the message that I have is that, you know, there is hope. You don't have to, you know, beat yourself up. There are options, not just my option. Um, Certainly within the legal system, there's something called dispute resolution, alternative dispute resolution, where people can go to mediation instead of having to go to court. They can go to arbitration instead of having to go to court. You can negotiate things. I mean, there are a lot of options that don't involve what I call the nuclear option of having to go to court and face, you know, a judge and jury and all that. You know, sometimes if you're in a criminal proceeding, that's something different. I'm talking more of the civil type of litigation that people sometimes face. So there are options that you can choose. And, you know, with programs like mine, you can also partner with your attorney so that you have a shared accountability and responsibility for navigating the system and getting, you know, the best outcome that's possible. And the one thing that's really good is that we're entering an era of change. Like there's societal change, there's economic change. It's a very exciting time to be alive, really. And you know, the possibilities are opening, and the institutions and the structures that we've come to accept are in many ways crumbling. Like we have a situation now in the law where you have a president disrespecting the laws of the Supreme Court, you know, the orders of the Supreme Court. And that's going to have a very corrosive impact on the legal system if that continues. And so that corrosive, that breakdown will open up opportunities for change, for positive change. And hopefully, you know, approaches like mine will be part of that positive change.
No, I love that. And it kind of made me think too about the importance of community and support and that and supporting and helping one another, right? Because you said we can't control law. Like I'm this person down here in this community, but I can control how I engage and support people, right? And so in that aspect, I again, I really think that what you're doing is really providing that community and that support for individuals who, again, kind of maybe feel lost in lost in the process or lost in what to do or feeling kind of that hopelessness. And I think again, and especially uh, someone who maybe has not grown up in this country and isn't familiar with what's going on, again, might not see the options that they have before them. So what else maybe can you tell somebody just as an individual work, what can I do to help prepare myself? What's just a little tidbit of something that you can do for someone to say this is internally what you need to be working on, or something you can do?
Yeah, I think one of the big things that people can do is just become familiar with the processes. The language is a little bit difficult, but it takes lawyers years to master
Mm.
the language of the law. But in terms of just the practices and the policies, so that when you get into court, you're not blindsided expecting things to be one way and they turn out to be another way. Also you have to take into account what kind of court are you going to go into, like the policies and the practices that you see in criminal court may not be the same as in family court or small claims court. So you really need to take some time to find out what is it that you're walking into. And you can do this on your own. You don't need an attorney to do this for you, so that you're emotionally somewhat prepared for what's to come. And then to find out how the process plays out. Over what period of time are you going to be going through this? What can you expect to encounter along the way? And if you have this knowledge, again, it becomes easier to deal with emotionally and psychologically, in terms of not being blindsided by being surprised about what you're going to see when you go to court.
Yeah, absolutely. And where can people find you?
Okay, well, I have a website, translawmation.com. And also, I'm starting a YouTube channel very soon.
Yay.
And they can find me there once that's launched. And, I'm authoring a webinar coming up shortly, probably toward the end of May. And, it'll be a free webinar so people can, check that out. And after the webinar, if they like what they see and wanted to take it further, we have an opportunity for them to go into a 12-week program as well.
Awesome. I'm going to link all of that in the description. So if you want to please make sure that you check out Sandra and the good work that she is doing. And then make sure you like, subscribe. If you're listening on YouTube, if you are listening on Spotify, go ahead and follow. And then I'm also going to be linking Sandra's YouTube when she gets it going. Make sure you go over there and like and follow that as well. But thank you all for being here. Thank you, Sandra, for being
Thank
here,
you, and
for
exciting
teaching me.
times with you and your program. I'm very excited to watch the prior segments that you have. It's always very interesting and helpful information.
Yeah, I learn something every time I'm here, which is the whole thing that I do, right? It's like my whole purpose is to broaden my perspective, so that I can learn, because now I have a whole different idea of things that might be possible that I didn't know before, that were out not in my single story, but now I'm learning from others. And my whole purpose is to encourage others to learn something, learn a new perspective, hear somebody else's voice, hear somebody else's experience, so that we can be better together. So.
Sounds good.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.